Hey, Mama, you're listening to the Resting in Motherhood podcast with your host and new motherhood BFF, Brittany Maya. I'm a certified infant sleep specialist, but more importantly, I'm a mama navigating my own motherhood journey right alongside you. So join me weekly as we discuss the real, raw, and relatable truths of motherhood. We'll touch on everything from the ugly and difficult things we think but are afraid to say out loud, to the beautiful moments that uplift us and bring us so much joy in motherhood. So go ahead, take a deep breath, embrace the chaos, and join me for heartwarming conversations that'll leave you feeling understood, inspired, and ready to tackle whatever motherhood throws your way. Hello. Welcome into the Resting in Motherhood podcast. How are you today? How is your week going? How was your night last night? How are you feeling in motherhood? I always like to ask you that, and I know I've said this before. I wish I could hear you respond back, but I really like to take the beginning of the podcast episode to just have you do a mental check-in. How are you? What's going well? What do you feel like you're craving? What do you feel like you're really struggling with right now? And just take some time to mentally think about it, because you've carved out this time to listen to this podcast episode. So maybe carve out a few extra minutes either to pause right now or after the episode and just check in with yourself to see how you're doing. And as always, I will share with you how I'm currently finding rest in motherhood. And again, this week was a little bit tricky because I am in the midst of doing a million different things. And so I asked myself, how am I finding rest in motherhood? And I didn't have an immediate answer, but I just came back. Obviously, this will be, when you're listening to this, a few weeks from when this happened, but I'm just coming back from an amazing weekend up at our cabin with one of my best friends and her husband and her kids. And it was the most chaotic, joyful, magical experience ever. Just to have one of my best girlfriends with me. Our kids love each other, like truly love each other. We kept commenting on how we had been together for because they were here for 8 days. So we had been together for and under the same roof in our cabin for 4 days. And then we had been with them before. They were staying at an Airbnb before we all went up to the cabin. But the kids were together 24/7, and never once was there a fight between the three of them. She has 2 boys and I have Lila. Now the boys obviously fight, but even Lila being there kind of diffused it. And it was just 3 little besties doing everything. We never had to break up a fight. We never had to say, okay, we need to share the toys, right? There was none of it. It was bliss, motherhood bliss. Having a best friend there who parents the way I do, who knows everything that I go through on a day-to-day basis, and I know what she goes through, just to be together and share in that experience. So while it was chaotic under our very tiny roof of our cabin, it's a very small cabin, 900 square feet. So to have 3 kids running around and then the 2 of us and her husband, it was chaos, but in the best way. And that's how I really filled my cup in the last week, is just soaking in having her near. She's from Florida. And so it was beautiful just to really have that village, even though it was only one other mom, but to have that village for us to cook breakfast in the morning together, to sit down and chat while our kids ran around, right? To clean the dishes together. And it just really reminded me that we really do need a village. And let me state here, if you're feeling lonely in motherhood, I felt so lonely in motherhood, probably the first 2.5 to 3 years of Lila's life. And then I slowly started making mom friends, and 2 of my best mom friends live in different states, and all we do is communicate via text message and voice memo. And that's my real village, apart from my sister and my mom, who do live close to me. We live with my parents right now. But if you're feeling that loneliness, I see you. Your village is out there. Sometimes it's just about getting creative. Sometimes it's seeing that maybe your village is a group of mom friends that you don't actually um, see day to day, that you talk to on the phone, and then you guys can go visit each other. Like my friend Katie, who came to visit me, Lila and I went to go visit her in February. And then I also have a group of mom friends that I went to my business retreat with back in May. And now we all group chat. And it's so sometimes the village isn't right around us. Sometimes it's a village that is emotional support, right? Or just like being able to say, like, today sucks. And if you're like, I really want this, I shared last week about the Thriving Moms Club, which we are going to be chatting about today as well. But my favorite aspect of the Thriving Moms Club, and the thing that I'm most excited about, is that there's going to be 15 women plus myself in this group that are going to create, my hope is, a lifelong relationship with each other, to support each other, to be that village that we've all been so desperately craving. So I'm really excited about that. So if just even that, if you're like, I need this village, get in the Thriving Moms Club. It's waiting for you. It's there. And I can't wait to have you inside. So I will lead into now, which is kind of perfect, a topic that I've really been kind of sitting with and trying to bring the words to it, because it's something that I've noticed is I get these ideas and I can feel them and I can see them in my head, but then to like get all of that out in words and on paper, sometimes I really struggle with. Like, the passion is there and the vision inside of my head is perfect, but I need somebody to like take it apart and make it tangible on the outside so that I can talk about it. And so I've really been kind of deconstructing this. What is a thriving mom? Because kind of today's podcast episode was actually supposed to be on another subject, which I will do in the future, which it was supposed to be on the constant pressure that we put on ourselves to be present 100% of the time in motherhood, and just talking about that pressure and deconstructing it. That was what today's episode was supposed to be about. And like I said, if that sounds really intriguing to you, it will be a podcast episode in the next few weeks. But this episode is kind of brought on by, I had shared a reel last week, my time. Again, you're listening to this in the future. So a few weeks ago for you, that said something like motherhood, and then it hits you, motherhood doesn't have to be chaotic, stressful, lonely, boring, and it can be. And then I listed like joyful. I can't even think of all of the words I used right now, but the one that really got people was effortless. And so today I want to talk about this concept of the hardest job that we're all doing. How can that be effortless? And just what is a thriving mom? So we'll talk about the effortless part first. I got a few really mean comments saying that I was irresponsible, that I can only say that now because my daughter's older, or you only have one child, try having two, right? Like a lot of finger pointing and getting angry. And it's funny because I feel like for a while, my content has just kind of been like happy, everybody likes it. And it's been a while since I've kind of gotten this, I don't want to say hate, but negative reactions. And you know what? It reminded me when I was getting a lot of negative reactions, it was when I was posting a lot about like bed sharing is safe, why you don't need to sleep train, why I don't support cry it out, right? Like very polarizing topics. And this obviously hit a nerve with some people because, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm not psychoanalyzing them, but I would assume that this really upset them because they are in a very, very tough, maybe dark season of motherhood. So the idea of motherhood being effortless feels really jarring to them, feels like I'm discrediting their motherhood experience. And that is not at all what I want to do. As a mom who, I can admit, and I've shared this in the podcast before, had many times where I internally told myself, I hate motherhood. I hate being a mom. who had really dark days where I would go cry in the closet while Lila was playing, right? Who wanted to like pull my hair out, who would scream in a pillow. Like I have been in those dark, dark days where it just feels like too much. You want to hide. You just don't think you can do it anymore. So I never, ever want to discredit that experience because every single experience that we're having is valid. Motherhood is the hardest job that we will ever do. It is. I will say that again. Motherhood is the hardest job that we will ever do. So how can it be effortless, right? How can it be effortless when you're changing, I don't know, 15 diapers a day? I don't know how many diapers you're changing, but if you're changing 15 diapers a day, how can it be effortless when your baby was up all night long? How can it be effortless when your baby woke up at 4 a.m? How can it be effortless when your toddler is telling you they hate you? Or I shared this on my Instagram stories the other day. How can it be effortless when your daughter goes to hit you? This is a true, real experience for me. When your daughter goes to hit you and you move back and you say, hey, now remember she's 5, so I can have these conversations with her. I said, hey, before you hit me, I just want you to stop and really think about how are you going to feel after you hit me? Because oftentimes she'll hit me and then like a few minutes later, I can tell she feels bad and she'll come over and apologize. So I wanted to preemptively say, what are going to be the results of this action right now? She looked me dead in the eye and said, good, because you're a bad mom and you don't take care of me. All because I wasn't letting her play with the essential oil diffuser. So how can it be effortless when that is our daily reality, right? How can it be effortless when we make a meal for our child and they don't eat it, and then 5 minutes later they're hungry, but they're not hungry for what's on their plate, right? Like I'm digging into all of the difficulties that we face as moms. How can motherhood be effortless throughout this? And what I realized was when I'm describing effortless, now if you go in the dictionary, it literally says like done with ease or lacking difficulty. I should have looked up the exact definition before I sat down to chat with you. But so how can this experience be effortless? And to me, when I say effortless, it doesn't mean the day is easy, like there's no difficulties. To me, effortless is not about what it looks like. It's about what it feels like. It's an internal state. It's not, like I said, like I cannot change that everything that's going on in your day, right? I can't make your baby not cry during the day. I can't give you the tips and tricks to have your child eat their meal. I can't give you the tips and tricks to avoid meltdowns because these are normal parts of raising our children. So to me, effortless does not mean like, oh, now all of this stuff doesn't happen. What it means is how are we showing up to it and how are we feeling inside? When the day is chaotic, when the day is stressful, can we show up in a space that we feel at ease, we feel grounded, we feel peaceful? That is the effortless to me. And how do we get there? We get there by having days that are set up for success. And so this is where I'm kind of going into what is a thriving mom. Because to me, I will honestly say motherhood feels effortless most of the time. I'm not going to say 100% of the time. I wouldn't even say 90. I wouldn't even maybe say 80. I would say 75% of the time. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm not having those hard moments. What it means is when Lila told me that she was going to feel good after hitting me because I'm a bad mom and I don't take care of her, instead of taking that personally, instead of saying like, what am I doing wrong in my parenting? I took a few deep breaths. I actually wanted to laugh because if you knew me as a child, if you knew me as a teenager, I have a very spicy temperament. I am a little bit fiery. So to have this child coming at me that way, my mom always told me, your daughter's going to be just like you and you're going to know what you put me through. And Mom, I see you. Thank you for loving me so much. Thank you for putting up with everything. But I showed up to that. I was really trying not to laugh because I didn't want her to know that I thought it was funny. But after that moment, I wasn't like, oh, this is the worst day ever. I'm a bad mom. She's a bad kid, right? My mindset was, okay, she's having a big experience. She's mad at me about that. She can feel that way. And then when she's calm, I'm going to have a conversation with her about how we do not hit even when we're feeling upset and what could we do instead, right? So that is why motherhood feels effortless to me, not because there's no hard moments in my day. It's because of how I feel internally. And so if I could just like make a big billboard that says effortless in motherhood does not mean it's hard. Effortless in motherhood means how are we feeling as we move through it? What is our internal state? And so kind of going off of that, I want to talk about, since I have just recently launched the Thriving Moms Club, what is a thriving mom? What makes a thriving mom? And first, I'll say that what thriving in motherhood looks like is going to be unique for you. It's going to be unique for me. Just like if you listened to the episode about like, what does having it all in motherhood look like? Well, having it all to me is going to look different than having it all to you because we probably have different values. We probably have different goals. We probably have different ideas of what we want our future to look like, right? So it's going to be different. But if I could kind of talk about a thriving mom, again, is the mom that has that internal sense of peace. She's grounded even on the hard days, and she moves through with that sense of joy. Now, again, does this mean that we're like this 100% of the time? No. Did I wake up this morning feeling joyful? To be honest with you, no. It took actions to get that joy back. I went outside. We have a patio, and I went outside. I did some like sun salutations. I took some deep breaths. I looked at the mountains. I looked at the birds chirping, or I listened to the birds chirping. I looked at the trees and reminded myself of the beautiful surroundings around me, reminded myself that life is beautiful. And then I did my meditation to get me even more on track. So I actively chose that joy, right? Can I move out of that sometimes? No. But then I actively continue to either say, okay, I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling angry about this. And I make space for that feeling, right? So this mom that's thriving and has this sense of peace and groundedness and joy does not mean that she's like that 100% of the time. But I would say that that's her baseline. That's where she rests at. And then if things get crazy, okay, things got crazy. And then she comes back to that. If things get low, if things are really hard, she understands that she's a human and that these feelings are normal and that this is a hard season. This is a hard thing that she's going through. She doesn't try to fix it, because when we try to say, I can't feel sad, I can't feel sad, we're just shoving that sadness down inside and it's sitting there instead of saying, hey, I'm feeling really sad right now. This is why I'm feeling sad right now. And just making space for it and allowing it to coexist with you, to move through your day with you instead of pushing it down. And then it's really there kind of guiding you through your day because you're trying to ignore it. And this is getting really deep, right? But to me, that's a thriving mom, that despite the external reality, how is she feeling inside? How is she choosing to show up every single day? Because that's the thing here. And I want to do a whole podcast episode on this too, is for so long, I took the victim mentality, especially when I was going through my divorce. Like, this is so hard for me. My child is so hard. My life is so hard. It was really hard. And I still have really hard days. But the difference was in that season, I was choosing to just sit. I was choosing to sit in it. And now, when those thoughts come, yeah, you know what, Brittany, this is really, really hard. Your experience is really valid. What can we do to make it a little bit better today? This morning, I woke up, right? Okay, I want to feel joyful. The joy is not there. What am I going to do? I'm going to go outside and I'm going to look at the things that I know bring me joy. I am a nature girly. Put me on a hiking trail, I will be at peace. Put me right next to a lake with mountains behind it, I will be at peace, right? So I know the things that bring me peace. So this morning I had to actively choose that joy. I needed to go outside. I needed to feel the fresh air. I needed to move my body. And that is the difference, is we can choose to sit in the hard. And again, I do not want to say that we're discrediting or we're toxic positivity. No, we can choose to sit in the hard and have that victim mentality that I did for so long, or we can choose how we want to show up. We can choose to say, yeah, this is really hard. This is what I'm feeling. How can I make it a little bit better for myself today? Maybe I can't change my circumstances, right? Maybe I have a very spirited, highly sensitive child and I can't change who they are. So how can I make it a little bit easier for me? How can I show up for myself so that I can best show up for my child? And that is a thriving mom. The mom who takes action, who takes pride in who she is, and she knows that she needs to take care of herself because she is doing the hardest role, because she knows that she probably is going to be surrounded by chaos, because she knows she might not be able to make a meal in peace because her baby wants to be held the whole time, right? This is the thriving mom, is she takes the action. She says, I am going to commit to myself. I am going to show up for myself. What's not working in my life? How can I get creative to make it start working for me? And again, I know like we can't control every single circumstance, but how can we show up to that circumstance? And so a thriving mom, she has a day that's set up for success. What this means is that she has routines and practices in place to serve herself so that she can better serve her family. She's ditched the guilt about, and this is, I talked about this at the beginning of the episode, another episode that I want to talk about, but she's ditched the guilt about trying to be present 100% of the time. She's ditched the guilt about doing things for herself, right? She's ditched the guilt, which opens up more energy and space for her to, number one, fill her cup, but also give her the energy and space to show up for her child in a better way. A thriving mom gets back on track, meaning that when shit hits the fan, sorry if you have a little one listening with you, when SHIT hits the fan, she takes a deep breath, she gets back on track, and then she starts again, right? Because when I used to have the really hard days, like let's say it happened in the morning. Here's a perfect example. And I think I've shared this on the podcast. If I haven't shared it on the podcast, I've definitely shared it on Instagram. Lila went through a phase where she would scream every single time she woke up in the morning, like blood-curdling screams. And of course, I would start my day off so dysregulated because I was woken up by a scream. And I would let that stay with me all day long. I would let my elevated nervous system stay with me dysregulated nervous system will say, stay with me all day long. And then everything set me off. And then everything was a trigger. And then it was like, she's so hard, right? Because she woke up screaming. And then the next thing that she did, it compounded on top of that. And I would let it just carry with me. And then at the end of the day, I would say, okay, tomorrow's a new day. But now she doesn't do that anymore. She will, because I start my day before her now, but she will kind of scream like, Mom, when she wakes up and I'm not there. But I've already grounded my nervous system. But let's use a different example. Let's use the example where she said that she was going to feel good about hitting me. Those are the moments where we say, okay, this was a hard moment. This was a crappy moment. I can let this stay with me for the rest of the day, or I can use my practices that I have in place, my self-help. I don't like the word self-help. My self-regulating techniques that I know I have in my toolbox to get us back on track and help her get back on track. So we get back on track after those hard moments. For me, getting back on track often is going on a walk, getting us moving outside in the sunshine. As I said, I'm a nature girly. Get me outside and it's a total reset. It's like restarting your phone, right? Like that's how I feel when I get a walk and I get outside. Sometimes getting back on track is sitting down with Lila if I have yelled at her and apologizing to her and then doing something very connection based with her. Like for us, reading books is our ultimate connection. We snuggle on the couch and we read books. And I think it's such ultimate connection because I'm a big reader. I love to read, and she loves to be read too. So it's the perfect way for us to reconnect. Sometimes resetting is literally taking a shower for me. Like last night, I was having a hard night with Lila. She did not want to listen to anything I said. She was laying starfished on the middle of the kitchen island, and she knows that she's not allowed to do that. And I said, hey, you're not supposed to be up there. Can you get down? And she just looked at me and laid there. And Lila, you're not supposed to be up there. I need you to get down. Still didn't get up. Lila, you're not supposed to be up there. If you can't get down, I can help you get down. Laid there. Lila, and as I started to move towards her and tell her I was going to help her, she sat up to hit me. Right? So I consider myself a thriving mom, and these things happen to me, but it's about how I'm showing up. So to continue on with that story, I was mad because there were other things throughout the day that she had been doing that I was getting back on track with. Right. And then I was just like, gosh, like, what is it with today? She does not want to listen to me. And my mom was around and laughed at me, and she was like, because I had been talking to her about the effortless thing. And she said, how effortless is motherhood feeling right now? To joke with me. And I said, thank you for pointing that out. But this is where I would say, if there was a camera on me, it's feeling really hard right now. But the effortless part comes in how I'm going to choose to show up right now. Am I going to carry this with us through the rest of the day? Am I going to be a mean mom? Am I going to lose my patience? Am I going to maybe yell at her? Or I said, this is literally what I said to my mom, or I'm going to go take a shower right now. I'm going to wash this SHIT off, and we're going to restart. And I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to feel that hot water running down my body, and I'm going to reset. And then we reset, right? Sometimes when I'm like, just let's say like at a certain point in my cycle, my menstrual cycle, like near my period, and I just don't have the patience and the energy, sometimes a reset for us is watching a movie. And that's okay. I still consider that a thriving mom because I recognize where I'm at, where my nervous system is at, and I recognize what I need to get us through the rest of the day to reset. So a thriving mom gets back on track, however that looks like for her. Like I said, maybe it's going outside. Maybe it's doing a little like laying on the bed together and just being silent. Maybe it's listening to a song and dancing. Maybe it's watching a movie, right? Whatever the case may be. Maybe it's getting out of the house and going and getting yourself a coffee. A thriving mom gets back on track. And this is the key. It doesn't mean that the thriving mom doesn't have the hard moments. It doesn't mean that the thriving mom doesn't have the moments where she loses her shit. It means that she gets back on track. And she has the confidence to do what's going to be best for her family. She has the confidence to show up for herself and her family. She has the confidence to decide what's going to work best for her family and not be afraid of what everyone else is thinking because she knows that she's the expert on her little one or little ones. The confidence is a big piece of a thriving mom because if we don't have the confidence, our energy is leaked. We lose a lot of power because we're so worried about doing the right thing or what people are going to think that energy gets leaked from us. And then we're already starting with a dysregulated nervous system. So we're already worried. We're already stressed out. We're not trusting in ourselves. And then our child does something that triggers us. And then that part of us that's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. It gets elevated. And then our day gets harder, right? It's just this snowball effect. So a thriving mom is also confident. And so I said this earlier, but I will circle back to this. A thriving mom you might not look at her and know like, oh, that's a thriving mom. A thriving mom is not what it looks like. A thriving mom is what you feel like. What's your internal state? Are you feeling that joy? Are you feeling peace? Are you feeling grounded? Are you feeling confident on a day-to-day basis? Do you have the routines and practices and tools in place that you need to take care of yourself so that you can show up as the mom that you want to be? That's a thriving mom. And one thing, the reason that I said about like a thriving mom is not about what it looks like is because if you walked into our playroom right now, it's a disaster. There's toys all over the floor. There's books all over her nugget couch. There's paint left out from paint she did yesterday. And so you might walk in and see the playroom and be like, oh, this mom does not have it together. But you know what? I don't let that clutter trigger me the way that it used to. And by the way, if as a highly sensitive person, clutter is just naturally triggering to us, usually because it's just like visually a lot to take in. So there's also a nervous system piece there that if clutter really dysregulates you, then that would be a practice that you have in place. Like, especially if you have an older one, like maybe your before your bedtime routine is a light cleaning, a light picking up around the house. Maybe it's getting rid of stuff, getting rid of clutter in your life that causes you stress, right? But let me go back to this. So I was thinking about it as I was walking in here to record, as I saw our playroom. If somebody saw this, would they think like, oh, she's a thriving mom, she's got it all together? Probably not. But you know what? When I walk by that mess, I don't get that I'm not triggered. I don't let it like elevate my blood pressure because I know, you know what? I chose not to look at that mess because I chose to be with Lila last night and just enjoy. And it was Sunday night. We watched a movie together and I chose to watch the movie and just be present with her and enjoy. And I will find a moment within the next day or two to get that playroom cleaned up, right? And that to me is a thriving mom because I leaned into what do I need the most in this moment? So yesterday when that playroom was a disaster and I'm like, do I clean the playroom now or do I go do a fun little Sunday night movie night with Lila? I'm going to choose the movie night. Could I have cleaned up after she went to bed? Absolutely. Am I on my period right now? And do I need extra rest? Absolutely. So what did I do when she went to bed? I laid in bed and I read my book right next to her. And then I woke up this morning and I walked past that mess again, right out to our patio to do my sun salutations. And that to me is thriving because I know what's going to serve us best. I know what's going to help me show up as best that I can. And that's the key. The thriving mom tunes into herself and has the routine, practices, and skills that's going to best serve her and her family. And she's able to make decisions from a grounded and peaceful place and an empowered place, knowing what's going to be best. So, as I've talked about what a thriving mom is, if you haven't already heard, I have just launched my first ever group coaching program called the Thriving Moms Club, which is an intimate 8-week group coaching program that is going to transform your life in motherhood. It's going to transform you from surviving in motherhood to truly thriving. The Thriving Moms Club is for the moms who are ready to find joy in the day-to-day of motherhood, even amidst the struggles of parenting. It's for the moms who are ready to boldly step into their confident mom era, feeling fully confident in the choices they're making and who they are in motherhood. It's for the moms who are ready to ditch the guilt and start actually taking care of themselves. There is literally 1 week focused on mom guilt within the Thriving Moms Club and how to work through it and what to do. It's for the moms who feel alone in their motherhood journey and want a true village of women who understand what they're going through. As I said at the beginning of the episode, there are only 15 spots open in the Thriving Moms Club, and I wanted to keep it this small and intimate so that we really could make these lifelong friendships and create a village. This program is for you if your days as a mom feel chaotic, exhausting, and stressful. You're parenting against the grain, but you're having a really hard time ditching the noise and following your intuition. You know deep down there has to be a better way to do motherhood. And you want to find the way, the tools, the practices to really nurture yourself in motherhood so that you can nurture your little one. After our 8 weeks together, you will know exactly how to balance you time while also deepening your connection with your little one. You will be the most confident and empowered version of yourself you've ever met. Your days as a mom will feel joyful, peaceful, and yes, even easy, because that easy will be internal. It will be a state of being, even when the external is falling apart all around you. And you will walk away with a group of true mama BFFs and a village to support you moving forward. what the program looks like. So this program has 8 weekly pre-recorded video lessons that will be sent to you at the beginning of each week, guiding you through the exact shifts and actions you need to make to start thriving in motherhood. You're also getting 8 weekly group coaching calls where you can ask questions, work through challenges with support from myself and the other moms who truly get it, and build lasting relationships that extend beyond the program. You're also going to get weekly journal prompts sent to you, as well as action items to start taking to start embodying the changes that we discuss in the weekly lessons. And lastly, one of my favorite parts about this is you're getting access to a private group chat with myself and the other 14 mamas of the club to check in daily for accountability, share struggles, and uplift and empower each other and build those lifelong friendships. Last week, I was giving $300 off, which took the price down to $997 as a little thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm going to give you $200 off because the price has gone up to the full price of $1297, but I'm giving you $200 off. The program launches September 16th, so doors will close on September 15th, so you can get $200 off with code INSIDER if you use that code by September 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm wishing you a beautiful day, and I really look forward to hopefully seeing you inside the Thriving Moms Club. Let's meet up next week too. Make sure to subscribe to the Resting in Motherhood podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Want to continue this conversation? Head to the show notes for this episode at restinginmotherhood.com/podcast. Or connect with me on Instagram at resting_in_motherhood.